Discipline is everything, ladies and gentlemen. There is a force, silent, invisible, yet unshakable, that separates the dreamers from the doers, the ordinary from the extraordinary. That force is discipline. You may possess ambition, intelligence, talent, even luck, but without discipline they are like a ship without a sail, directionless, useless in the storm. Discipline is the bridge between desire and destiny. It is not loud, but it is powerful. It does not boast, but it builds empires. It does not appear overnight, but it lasts a lifetime. Every man or woman who has ever achieved greatness began with a single choice: to master the self before mastering the world. They understood that external riches must be preceded by internal order. Discipline is the unseen hand that controls your time, tempers your emotions, and commands your focus. It is the quiet whisper that tells you to get up when you'd rather sleep, to study when you'd rather scroll, to keep going when everything in you says stop. Let me tell you the truth that most ignore: motivation fades. Emotion wavers, passion cools, but discipline remains. You cannot build a future on feelings. You build it on principles, habits, repetition, resilience, and discipline is the architect of all four. Discipline trains your mind to obey your vision. It is the refusal to be ruled by comfort, by cravings, or by the chaos of the world. It is the act of saying, I will not be a slave to impulse. I will not be a victim of laziness. I will become what I was meant to be. Do you want success? Control your mornings. Do you want freedom? Master your thoughts. Do you want power? Conquer your habits. Everything begins and ends with discipline. Discipline is everything. Discipline is the foundation of all achievement. There exists no monument to greatness that was not first built in the quiet solitude of discipline. Long before the accolades, long before the recognition, long before the results, there was only a mind, a mission, and the unwavering force of self-command. Greatness is not an accident, nor a favor of fortune. It is the direct consequence of disciplined effort applied with unwavering intensity. Every dream that has ever turned into a dynasty began with a disciplined thought. Before empires rise, before inventions transform lives, before leaders shape nations, discipline carves out the blueprint in silence. The disciplined individual does not wait for ideal circumstances. They create them through order, consistency, and will. To discipline your life is to assume full responsibility for your outcomes. It is the rejection of excuses, the end of blaming fate, and the beginning of building destiny. Where the undisciplined see obstacles, the disciplined see structures waiting to be climbed. They do not fear resistance. They forge themselves in it. Discipline is the soil in which all other virtues grow. Faith without discipline is merely hope. Vision without discipline is a fantasy. Talent without discipline becomes wasted potential, but with discipline, faith becomes action, vision becomes strategy, and talent becomes legacy. The individual who disciplines his time gains mastery over his future. While others trade their minutes for comfort, he invests his hours in progress. His schedule is not a prison, but a compass, directing him steadily toward purpose. He understands that time once lost is never recovered, and so he disciplines each second like a soldier marching toward victory. There is a sacred power in daily effort, no matter how small. The world applauds the final result, but the disciplined know that greatness is hidden in repetition. They wake up and work long after the mood has passed, because they have made a pact with themselves, not to feel right, but to do right. They know that 1 hour of focused, disciplined action is worth more than 10 of scattered motion. Discipline is the master key to consistency, and consistency is the gateway to compound growth. What you do daily, you become permanently. The disciplined individual commits not to intensity for a day, but to persistence for a lifetime. They understand that success is not something they chase. It is something they attract through disciplined behavior. The world bends to those who bend themselves first. The man who conquers his laziness, who silences his doubt, who governs his thoughts, this man cannot be stopped. His mind is ordered, his energy is aligned, he is not thrown by chaos because he lives by a greater law, one written not by the world, but by his own disciplined hand. You may admire others who have climbed mountains, amassed fortunes, written legacies, but understand this: you were given the same 24 hours, the same breath of life, the same spark of potential. The only question is, will you wield discipline as your weapon, or will you allow your days to drift like leaves in the wind? For those who dare to discipline themselves, the gates of achievement do not merely open, they are shattered. Motivation is fleeting, discipline is enduring, motivation is a spark. It flares, it excites, it ignites a feeling, but it does not last. It comes like a gust of wind, lifting the soul momentarily, only to vanish when the air grows still. The undisciplined soul depends on this fleeting wind to move forward, and when it disappears, as it always does, they stall, they stop, they fail. One cannot build a castle out of clouds. Motivation is emotional, discipline is structural. It is the steel frame behind the grandest achievements, while motivation is merely the curtain. You can be inspired by a speech, by a success story, or a moment of clarity, but without discipline, that inspiration fades before the first challenge. There is a dangerous illusion in waiting to feel ready. Those who wait to feel ready rarely begin. Those who rely on being in the mood rarely persist. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It commands you to act regardless of how you feel. The disciplined do not require permission from their emotions. They lead their emotions by the leash. You may wake up one morning filled with energy, ready to conquer the world, and yet the next morning the fire is gone. Discipline remains. It rises whether or not the flame is there. It does not require hype, nor applause, nor perfect circumstances. It shows up in silence, works in silence, and builds silently, until the results speak thunderously. Those who rely on motivation burn out. They sprint the first mile of the marathon and collapse by the third. But those trained in discipline know how to pace, how to endure, how to keep walking when their muscles scream. They are not fueled by excitement, but by commitment, not moved by inspiration, but by instruction, self-given, self-followed. Discipline is the engine that starts even when the battery of motivation dies. It is the grit in the early morning, the endurance in the late night, the persistence in the face of boredom. The disciplined understand that feelings are fickle, but results come only to those who outlast the moods that seek to sabotage them. The world rewards persistence. It favors those who refuse to break, not those who start strong, but those who stay strong. Discipline builds this staying power. It is the inner structure that turns effort into habit, and habit into excellence. And excellence, once rooted, becomes character. It is easy to act when you feel like it, but character is forged when you act in defiance of your feelings. When you rise tired, when you show up uninspired, when you work without reward, that is when you step into the rare territory of those who are remembered. For anyone can begin, but only the disciplined finish. Do not envy the man who is constantly motivated. Envy the one who rises when it's raining, who trains when no one is watching, who labors when all others have gone home. For that man is not powered by mood. He is powered by mastery. And mastery does not waver. True transformation begins not when you feel like changing, but when you act regardless of feeling, and that act, repeated in discipline, becomes the force. Self-mastery precedes worldly mastery. Before any man conquers the world, he must first conquer himself. The kingdoms of wealth, power, and influence cannot be seized by one who is still a stranger to his own soul. Self-mastery is the first empire, and without it, all other victories are temporary illusions built on unstable ground. The world reflects the order or disorder within, A man cannot lead others if he cannot lead his thoughts. He cannot inspire the world if he is ruled by his fears, appetites, or weaknesses. The most dangerous enemy is never outside. It is the ungoverned mind, the untrained will, the undisciplined spirit. To master the self is to become the architect of your fate. It is to take control of the forces within you, your habits, your desires, your emotions, and to bend them to serve your purpose. The undisciplined man becomes a puppet to circumstance, but the self-mastered man becomes the author of circumstance. Power is not given to the loudest voice, nor the strongest arm, but to the calmest mind. The man who governs his impulses commands a different kind of strength, quiet, invisible, but undeniable. He can wait without frustration. Act without hesitation, resist without explanation. He is free because he is ruled from within. The undisciplined seek to fix the world while remaining broken themselves. They chase influence while being slaves to distraction. But the disciplined know that no external victory can compensate for internal chaos. They do not decorate their prison cells. They break out of them through mastery of thought and behavior. Self-mastery requires brutal honesty. It demands that you look in the mirror and strip away the excuses. It requires the courage to confront your weaknesses, not with shame, but with strategy. Every flaw you ignore becomes a chain. Every impulse you obey without examination becomes a master over you. The man who has mastered himself is not easily provoked. He does not lash out under pressure or fold in adversity. He moves with purpose, speaks with precision, acts with integrity. He does not need to dominate others to prove his strength. His very presence speaks of inner dominion. There is no greatness without control. No vision becomes reality without restraint. To build an empire, one must first build a throne within. That throne is self-control. And from that seat of inner authority, the disciplined man governs his actions, his choices, and his destiny with unwavering certainty. Many chase status, wealth, and approval, but few pause to govern their inner kingdom. And so they reach heights they are not ready to maintain. They collapse under the weight of the very things they desired, because the foundation, self-mastery, was never laid. A castle built on sand will fall with the first storm. And so it is written not in words, but in the actions of every great leader, every enduring creator, every silent warrior who has shaped history, not by controlling the world first, but by. Every great life is built on disciplined daily choices. Examine the foundation of any life worth remembering, any legacy etched into time, and you will not find luck, nor miracles, nor a single sweeping moment of change. What you will find is the same thing, repeated again and again, small disciplined choices made daily, without applause, without recognition, and often without reward. At first, the world often admires the mountain's peak, but ignores the path carved to get there. The truth is this: greatness is not a lightning strike. It is a slow sunrise. It rises with each disciplined act, waking early, choosing growth over comfort, silence over distraction, effort over ease. These choices appear small, but they are the bricks from which a fortress is built. One choice does not define you, but repeated choices do. A disciplined morning becomes a productive day. A productive day becomes a meaningful week. A meaningful week becomes a powerful life. It is not the grand declarations that transform you. It is the invisible decisions when no one is watching. To build a great life, you must become a master of the moment. Every moment holds a crossroads, one path toward growth, the other toward regression. Most people let their choices be guided by mood, by convenience, by circumstance. But the disciplined understand, each choice either builds or breaks your future. Daily discipline creates momentum, and momentum is the unseen wind behind achievement. You do not need to feel inspired every day. You only need to act in alignment with your purpose. Over time, the weight of consistent, intentional effort crushes resistance. Mountains move, doors open, but only for the one who chooses over and over not to quit. Discipline is the great equalizer. You may not be the smartest, fastest, or most talented, but if you make better choices more often, you will win. While others are paralyzed by indecision or enslaved by distraction, you are building, brick by brick, a life that cannot be shaken. Every morning brings a quiet test. Will you rise early or sleep in? Will you feed your mind or numb it with noise? Will you take action or make excuses? These questions are not trivial. They are the tools of transformation asked by life itself. Your answers, repeated, will sculpt the person you become. The disciplined man does not wait for opportunity, he prepares for it. He does not rely on motivation to act. He relies on the habit of right action. His greatness does not lie in his results alone, but in the thousands of invisible victories that made those results inevitable. Great lives are not born, they are forged in daily battle, not the dramatic kind, but the silent war against distraction, temptation, laziness, and doubt. And each time you win this battle, even in a small way, you shift your identity from average to excellent, from potential to power, from drifting to destiny, and though the world may not see it yet, the seeds are being planted, the path is being paved, the character is being carved, for in the quiet repetition of right choices, day after day, the ordinary becomes. Discipline is the antidote to distraction. We live in an age of endless noise. At every turn, a new screen flickers, a notification dings, a headline screams for your attention. Distraction has become the new disease, subtle, silent, and deadly to purpose. In such a world, discipline is not merely helpful, it is vital. It is the antidote to a life wasted in fragments. The undisciplined mind is like a ship tossed in stormy seas. Every wave of temptation pulls it off course. Every gust of novelty shifts its direction. It starts one journey and ends in another, never reaching the shore. But the disciplined mind is the lighthouse. It stands unmoved while the waves rage. It stays true while the world wanders. Distraction is not always obvious. It often wears the mask of productivity, of urgency, of entertainment disguised as engagement. But underneath its friendly disguise lies its true nature, theft. Distraction is the thief of clarity, the assassin of progress, the silent killer of dreams. And discipline is the only force strong enough to disarm it. When you are disciplined, your focus sharpens like a blade. You no longer react to everything. You respond only to what matters. You guard your time like treasure because you understand that minutes are not expendable, they are investments. The undisciplined scatter their energy. The disciplined channel it like a laser. To choose discipline is to reject the world's hypnotic pull toward urgency without importance. The disciplined know that not everything deserves their attention. They have made peace with being misunderstood, with ignoring trends, with walking paths few dare to tread, because they are not chasing applause. They are pursuing purpose. The mind untrained in discipline will always chase the next thing, the next idea, the next distraction, but achievement demands depth, not width. It is not how many tasks you begin, but how many you finish. The disciplined do not just start, they complete, and completion is where greatness lives. Discipline allows you to protect your mind like a fortress. You filter what enters, you choose what stays, you command your attention instead of surrendering it. And with that control, you begin to build, deeply, deliberately, and without interruption, because every masterpiece requires undivided focus. There will always be 100 reasons to stop, to switch, to drift. The world will offer escape at every corner, but the disciplined man refuses the easy exit. He stays, he works, he finishes. He does not seek stimulation, he seeks satisfaction, the kind that comes only from doing what matters most, especially when it's difficult. The strongest minds in history did not work in perfect silence or ideal conditions. They learned to create silence within. While the world shouted, they listened only to their inner command. that still voice that says, "Stay the course, do not yield, finish what you started." That voice is discipline it whispers, but its echo changes worlds. For in mastering distraction, you master direction, and when your direction is undivided, your power becomes. Discipline transforms potential into power. Every human being is born with potential, but few ever awaken it. Fewer still refine it, and only a rare breed molds that raw potential into focused power. The difference between those who live in obscurity and those who rise to greatness lies not in what they were born with, but in how they disciplined it. Potential is like a mine rich with gold, hidden beneath layers of rock and earth. Most walk above it their entire lives, never digging deep enough to strike it. Some dig for a day, a week, maybe a year, then give up. But the disciplined man returns daily with his pickaxe. He strikes the same spot with intention, precision, and faith, and in time the earth yields. Talent without discipline is a wasted gift. It may impress, but it will never endure. It may shine, but only briefly. Discipline turns talent into skill, skill into mastery, and mastery into impact. The world does not reward untapped potential. It rewards cultivated power, the kind that is earned through repetition, refinement, and resolve. You cannot wait for the perfect moment to unlock your potential. It does not come through waiting. It comes through working. It is not discovered. It is developed. Discipline is the tool that chisels greatness from the rough stone of possibility. It is the fire that tempers raw ability into unbreakable strength. Every day you act with discipline, you expand your capacity, you stretch the limits of what you thought you could do. You push beyond the comfort zone, and in doing so, you expand it. What was once difficult becomes easy. What was once impossible becomes routine. Discipline does not just reveal your potential, it multiplies it. There are no shortcuts to power. There is no hack for greatness. But there is a path, and that path is paved by disciplined effort. Each drop of sweat, each task completed, each temptation resisted, adds to your strength, not just outwardly, but inwardly. The muscles of the mind grow stronger. The will becomes sharper, your presence deepens, potential is dormant, power is kinetic. Potential dreams, power delivers. Discipline is the bridge between the two. It is the choice made daily to act rather than fantasize, to commit rather than coast, to finish rather than excuse. It transforms vague ambitions into visible achievements. The undisciplined man may have flashes of brilliance, but he lacks the consistency to turn sparks into flames. He starts strong, fades quickly, and wonders why nothing lasts. But the disciplined man builds fires that endure, not because he is more gifted, but because he chooses to keep striking the match again and again. The world marvels at those who seem unstoppable, not realizing they were once ordinary, filled with the same doubts, the same fears, the same unknown. What made them powerful was not magic, but method, not inspiration, but intention, not a single burst of energy, but years of disciplined application. And so the great transformation begins, not when you see your potential, but when you decide to master it. For once discipline takes hold, your scattered energies align, your hesitations fall away, and the force within you begins to move with. Discipline breeds consistency, and consistency breeds results. The average man begins with energy, enthusiasm, and ambition, but he fades. Not because he lacks talent, and not because the dream was too large. He fades because he never mastered the one principle that sustains every great endeavor, consistency, and consistency is the child of discipline. The man who lives by discipline is not a slave to his moods. He shows up when he is tired. He acts when he is uninspired. He pushes forward when progress is invisible, because he understands that results do not come from what is done occasionally, but from what is done relentlessly without fail. The undisciplined man depends on good days. He hopes to be in the zone, to be inspired, to be ready. But life does not reward those who wait for favorable winds. It rewards those who row, whether the current favors them or not. Consistency means rowing through the storm, through the calm, through every uncertain tide. There is a sacred rhythm in discipline. It beats daily, like a drum calling the soldier to march, regardless of weather or weariness. The consistent man becomes unstoppable, not because of speed, but because of permanence. Each action builds upon the last. Each day adds another layer of stone to the fortress he's constructing. Greatness is not explosive. It is cumulative. It builds unnoticed at first, like roots beneath the soil. People do not see the early work, the quiet repetition, the lonely nights, the silent battles, but it is there in that hidden space where the future is being built, brick by disciplined brick. The man who trains daily is not better because he trains harder, but because he trains longer. Over time, consistency becomes compound interest. A little done daily becomes massive over months and years. His competitors sprint, he paces, they burn out, he endures, he does not chase intensity. He builds identity. Results are not elusive. They are exact. They respond to structure. They obey process. They are the inevitable harvest of consistent sowing. If you plant daily with discipline, you will reap. But if you plant only when you feel like it, your field will remain barren, no matter how fertile the soil once was. Discipline transforms the act of showing up into a habit. And once a habit is born, the battle is half won. What once required force becomes automatic. What once felt heavy becomes light. The mind stops resisting. The body stops hesitating. The spirit starts rising. This is the secret of all sustained success. In the world of high achievers, it is not those who sprint the fastest who stand tallest. It is those who never stop walking. Discipline allows you to walk through boredom, through setbacks, through doubt. It is the anchor when storms rage, and the engine when winds are still, because in the end, consistency is the fingerprint of the disciplined, and where consistency is found, results are not far behind. The disciplined man does not wonder if the harvest will come. He knows it will, for he has tilled the ground, planted the seeds, watered them without fail, and waited with the unwavering patience of a man who is becoming. Without discipline, desire remains a fantasy. Desire is the spark, but discipline is the flame that sustains the fire. The world is full of dreamers, those who speak grand visions, who write lofty goals, who feel the heat of ambition in their bones. But desire alone is not destiny. Without discipline, desire remains what it was at the start, a fantasy, unproven and unfulfilled. Desire is easy. It stirs in the silence of the night, in the comfort of thought. It requires no sacrifice, no effort, no cost. But when morning comes and the alarm clock rings and the grind demands attention, desire without discipline retreats. It hides behind excuses, and it waits for a better time, which never comes. There is nothing wrong with desire. It is essential, but desire is not rare. Everyone wants something. The rare individual is the one who is willing to pay the price. That price is discipline, daily discipline. Quiet discipline, ruthless, committed discipline when no one is watching and no one is clapping. The world rewards only those who act, not those who want. The man with dreams but no discipline is like a man trying to build a palace from air. His vision may be vast, but his reality remains empty. Discipline is the hammer that forges stone into structure, intention into outcome. Discipline transforms longing into labor. It wakes up the dream and puts it to work. Where others wait for the perfect moment, the disciplined man begins. Where others hope, he moves. Where others hesitate, he builds, not once, not twice, but until the thing he desired no longer lives in his mind, but stands before him in the world. Most people live in cycles of excitement and disappointment. They set goals, but never follow through. They feel the flame for a moment, but never tend to it. Why? Because they confuse feeling with doing. But the disciplined man understands it is not what you feel that shapes your life. It is what you do consistently. Desire without discipline is a seduction. It whispers promises of what could be without demanding what must be done. It tempts the mind to believe that clarity is enough, that intention is action, but discipline clears away that illusion. It says, show me, prove it, step forward no matter how you feel, and when discipline enters the soul, it begins to harness desire. It focuses it channels it turns scattered wishes into solid work. The disciplined man is not distracted by 1,000 fleeting wants. He chooses one aim, and devotes himself to it completely. His desire becomes an engine, not a fantasy. The road to fulfillment is not lined with good intentions, it is paved with disciplined choices. Those who achieve do so not because they desired more, but because they disciplined themselves more. They turned someday into today. They turned hope into habit. They turned dreams into duties, and in that sacred transformation something awakens, a force of fire, a quiet power that no longer begs or wishes, but creates, commands, and carves into reality the life once imagined. For the disciplined man is no longer driven by fantasy, he is driven by